And now it's time we cross over to Ali Reza for a new edition of Hashtag Trending.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Hashtag Trending with me, Ali Reza. Today we're going to be looking back at the series of pro-democracy uprisings which started in the spring of 2011 in several largely Muslim countries, which ultimately resulted in a regime change in some of them. Stay with us. Not all of those uprisings were successful, at least if the end goal was increased democracy and political freedoms. Just like in Bahrain, where pro-democracy peaceful protests were violently suppressed by the ruling monarchy.
Dreaming of democracy, an end of dictatorship, rule of law and human rights, social justice. These are the key demands that the Bahraini people stood up, only to find themselves to be crushed, imprisoned, tortured and killed.
لعدة محاولات قمع وما زلت أتذكر كيف كان يوما أسودا في حقوق الإنسان.
All right, time to check out social media's reaction to this story, so let's check real quickly. Our first tweet comes from Declassified UK. They write, Bahrain's pro-democracy uprising 10 years was put down with the help of Britain, whose military, intelligence services and royal family all play a key role in keeping the Al Khalifa regime in power. History has shown that Britain has been largely responsible for many other outstanding issues of the region, like the Palestine issue. Our next tweet comes from Ankara Voice. They write, protests erupted across Bahrain, marking 10 years since the popular uprising. Some waved Bahraini flags, while others held banners against the Al Khalifa family, marking the intensified systemic injustice in the country. Unfortunately, many of these protests are crushed by the regime forces. Another tweet comes from UK. On the occasion of the 10th anniversary of Bahrain's pro-democracy uprising, their citizens held a peaceful march. Let's have a look. Ten years later, this is how some of the protesters recount and remember the events.
I'm a victim of torture, where I've been arrested in May 2011 after the uprising started in February 2011.
Opposition leaders ended up in jail. Activists, human rights defenders, being abused, harassed, forced into jail.
Unfortunately, that's just been the way of the world. There has been more failed uprisings than successful ones. Okay, back to Twitter. Our next tweet comes from I Love the Dialectic. They write, the protests were eventually repressed by the Saudi Arabian National Guard with the help of Canadian-made light armored vehicles. You should probably have added British-made weaponry to the list too. More on that later. Our next tweet comes from Lu'lu' TV. They write, a number of miners detained in the lead-up to the 10-year anniversary of Bahrain's popular uprising are still locked up. Among them are Ali Yusuf Abdullah and Reza Abbas. Well, this isn't entirely surprising given the regime's track record of political repression. Now let's hear from the Irish human rights defender. Salam DHR writes, HRDs, human rights defenders, are remembering this month, March, the 10th anniversary. We continue to support the people there for fighting for their democratic rights. Let's hear it.
Today, human rights defenders from all around the world are remembering that this month marks the 10th year anniversary of the beginning of the pro-revolution in Bahrain. We continue to support the countless people there who are fighting for their democratic rights and whose human rights are persistently violated.
So do we, Joseph, so do we, but we shouldn't forget the fact that the will of the people doesn't always translate into reality. Okay, we still have a couple more tweets left. Our next tweet comes from Crescent International. They write, the West, an oppressive regime in power. This is true for many other nations in the region. And our last tweet on the story by Sayyid Ahmad Al-Wadai, he writes, the UK has exported more than £115 million in arms to Bahrain since the uprising, according to the Campaign Against Arms Trade. Well, that's been it for this edition of Hashtag Trending. Thanks for sticking around. Back to the studio.